Hello there, it is time to talk about the third quarter results for Volition, and to do that I'm going to be joined by several members of the leadership team, but we thought we'd start at the top because joining me as always at the beginning is Cameron Reynolds, the Group President and CEO, and we often say it's been a busy time, but I really can say this time it has been a busy time. Cameron, what's going on?
Yes, it's been an absolutely fantastic quarter yet again with many milestones. And I think the important thing to think about while you're listening to the whole presentation today, it's all powered by Nu.Q. Everything we do is exactly the same platform, and to be able to help animals in netosis, human cancers, and a range of other areas is quite remarkable for one platform that's now been developed, and now we're launching products in a very wide range of areas. So incredibly exciting time.
Stay where you are. I did say we're going to talk to other members of the leadership team, and there's been a lot on social media and in press releases about Volition Veterinary recently, so let's hear now, I spoke to him earlier, from the CEO of Volition Veterinary, Tom Butera.
It's been a terrific quarter. We just recently announced that we signed a major global agreement with one of the leading pet health care companies in the world. Absolutely delighted with that. We've been in discussions with them for an extended period of time, and we were just able to sign that. In addition to that, we also are continuing our ongoing relationship with the Heska Corporation, and Heska just recently announced that they have launched our Nu.Q Vet Cancer Test in their Colorado lab in the United States, in their reference lab. And the test will also be available in Europe in the very near coming weeks. Now we have mass market distribution with those two companies, which is absolutely phenomenal, both in the reference lab and in the future with reference to point of care.
So we're going to hear more about the name of that first company later this year or next year for various reasons, but more about that point of care really with Heska.
So that everyone understands point of care, that means an instrument that actually is placed in the veterinary hospital where they can obtain information about the test. That's what we mean when we speak of point of care. We are aggressively working with Heska on the development of that point of care instrumentation, and we really anticipate having it available for screening in the first quarter of 2023, and then hopefully available for monitoring by the first half of 2023.
And what's that going to mean regarding financials and numbers for Volition and of course for Heska?
Well, let me review again for you. The original deal, Nick, was $28 million. We've received an initial payment of $10 million, which we currently have in the bank, and we received that in the last quarter. And we're going to get $13 million in additional milestone payments in 2023. The first $6.5 million will come with the launch of their point of care instrument, which we anticipate happening probably most likely in the first quarter of 2023. And then the monitoring paper, which will give us claims for the use of our test and monitoring, will trigger the second $6.5 million, which will be probably in the second quarter of 2023. And Nick, remember, every time either Heska or one of our mass market distributors does a test, Volition gets paid for that test. And that's with reference to a point of care test or a reference lab.
That's obviously going to please Terig Hughes, the Group CFO, who we'll be hearing from in a moment. But before we go to Terig, just give me a bit more detail around the whole veterinary market at the moment.
Yeah, to give you an idea, just in the United States alone, 84 million dogs, just in the United States alone. With reference to the number of dogs, unfortunately, that develop cancer on an annual basis is close to 6 million dogs. Again, I'm speaking in the United States alone. Probably about half those numbers in Europe. It's an unfortunate topic to talk about, but at the same time, it's an immense opportunity for the use of our Nu.Q platform. One other thing I would like to mention, the total addressable market, otherwise called TAM, is about $11 billion on a worldwide basis. So if you think about that a little bit, it's an immense opportunity for us.
Tom, finally, hot off the press, because I've just seen it as being published, there's been a clinical study carried out by Oncovet. Just finally tell us a bit more detail about that.
Yeah, Oncovet is one of the leading private oncology groups in Europe. It is led by Dr. Jerome Benoit, who is a radiation oncologist. They see hundreds of animals on a weekly basis, and the collaboration that we have with Dr. Benoit, who's one of the leading veterinary oncologists in Europe, and also, just as a sidebar, happens to be the president of the European Society for Veterinary Oncologists as well. He's well known. He runs clinical studies at his clinic on a regular basis. Our particular collaboration is going to be over 100 dogs and 25 cats, because we're going to be doing a lot of studies on cats this year. And we're going to be utilizing our test to go even further and delve deeper into where our platform can be used from both the screening standpoint, from a cancer detection standpoint, and from a monitoring standpoint.
So let's move over to Terig Hughes now, who's our Chief Financial Officer, because what Tom and Cameron have said there is giving a lot of financial food for thought.
We've closed the quarter with cash and cash equivalents of $16.4 million, and that compares with $16.7 million at the end of the last quarter. We raised $6.4 million in cash, net of underwriters' fees and expenses, and that was from an underwritten public offering of common stock. And we raised a further $1.5 million in non-dilutive funding from Namur Invest Capital Risk in Belgium. And that was to fund an early access program for our new Q products across Europe, the UK, and the US. We continued to manage our expenditure carefully, with net cash used in operating activities of $2.3 million a month as an average over the quarter. Looking ahead, we expect to receive milestones from Heska in the first half of next year of approximately $13 million. We also expect to start receiving payments from our product sales. And then every time a new Q vet test is sold by one of our veterinary distributors, we will receive revenue. Given our current balance sheet and the funding we expect, I think we're in a great position to capitalize on our milestones in 2023.
So always good to hear about the numbers, Cameron, but you're still with us, and we're going to talk about new Q nets, the second focus area here. What's really the update on this particular product pillar?
It was a very exciting quarter in NETosis as well, and some really good progress. As you know, we've engaged Docro to start our FDA work and the study. They've now identified and set up the 3 sites, and we expect them to start collecting samples very, very soon. With all of you to make a breakthrough designation status application next year.
You're, as I said earlier, very busy on social media. We get lots of video reports from you, but you're also very high on the agenda as far as publications are concerned. What's of interest regarding the publications at the moment?
Yet again, we had several posters and publications this quarter. Showing the scientific work in front of scientists is obviously very, very important. The one in the NETosis space that was most important was showing how well our assay correlates with severity. And the current measurement is SOFA, which is a complicated measurement of over 6 different things put together. And our very simple assay, very simple blood test, correlated very well with that. So good news for the NETosis product, and yet another validation of our product that can be very, very useful, we think.
So does this suggest that what you're calling your market access program has now begun?
Yes, it absolutely has. We're looking to place our machines in around 10 centres throughout the world, centred in Europe. And we've got some already set up and running, and we've got a bunch more we expect to come in the next few quarters. And that's allowing the key opinion leaders in their own area by themselves to run our tests for whatever product they're looking to do. Just as a reminder, the CE mark was a very broad claim for measuring inflammation NETosis, and it's potentially usable in a very wide range of areas. So these key opinion leaders, they now have machines and can run it for all the different things it can be used for. So we should have a huge amount of information coming through the next end of this year and all the way through next year from all these centres of excellence.
So as we said at the beginning, busy, excellent quarter. Let's do the inevitable look ahead now. Let's talk about milestones. I'd like you to give me 3 milestones that shareholders are going to be interested in.
I think the most important ones to mention are the ones which are closest to a product and revenue, which everyone's looking for. And I think the big launches are coming. So the first one, the first deal we signed with a big company, the Heska Corporation. They've just launched in the US lab and the European lab, but their big flagship process is the point of care, which is what they've paid for exclusivity for. And we're expecting that to be sometime in the first quarter as well, which is huge, which means it'll be available not just on the platforms we have, but on a point of care that can be given to the dog in a vet's lab. The second, we've just signed with a very big company that have a lot of labs around the world, and particularly in the US. So we'd also expect them to launch, meaning they start selling the product from their labs. Now again, they'll be running the test and making it available to a very wide number of people, we expect. So that we'd also expect to be soon. And also in the vet space, that's two. The monitoring, so we've currently have the product for screening for the wellness test in dogs, but about 6 million dogs a year get cancer. So to monitoring their treatment is very, very important. And that's not just one test, it can be done multiple times for the same dog as you see how the treatment's going. So that's a third very exciting milestone we expect in the next quarter or two. And I'll say a fourth, because there's so much going on. I think the breakthrough designation application I mentioned before is a huge thing to look for. Natosis we expect to be a very large market, considerable market in many, many ways, in many areas. So having the breakthrough designation application in, then we'll see what the FDA does, but having the application in is a massive milestone for us and really shows we're very serious in the human space as well as the veterinary space.
Well, thank you very much, Cameron, and also the other members of the leadership team. If you want to see these guys live in 2023 particularly, you're going to be attending a whole series of conventions and professional events, and we'll also be finding out a bit more, particularly the name of that market-leading organisation that are going to be helping to launch the Nu-Q Vet. So Cameron Reynolds, CEO and President of Volition, thanks very much.
Thanks for your time, and thanks everyone for listening.